All right, we'll go ahead and call this session to order. Thank you all for coming today. Ms. Perry, will you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Holly Berry.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stephanie Dalton.
Here.
Commissioner Jamie Fairbanks Harvey.
Here.
Commissioner Pete Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes Wilkinson.
Here.
For today's invocation, please join me in a moment of silence to reverently collect our thoughts, pray, and ready ourselves for this meeting and the duties to which we have been called. Thank you. Mr. Brennan, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have consideration of the minutes for approval or correction for the May 21st work session. Any corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve as written?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Phillips. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the minutes for the May 21st regular commission meeting. Any corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve as written?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wilkinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Okay.
We have a
Go ahead.
second from Vice Mayor Dalton. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is my mayor's report. I wanted to thank everyone for coming out to Red Bank's first farmers market last weekend. We had a great turnout despite a few showers. Be sure to mark your calendars for our next farmers market on Saturday, June 29th. We will have even more vendors and a coffee truck at the next one. Our next Food Truck Friday is this Friday, June 7th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Red Bank City Park. And the Red Bank Pool is now open for the summer. You can get your family pass that's good for the whole season for $160 for up to 5 members of your household. For the month of June, the MAPCO on Morrison Springs Road will be donating 10 cents per gallon pumped at Pump 5 to Red Bank High School. So fill up your tank there. And the next Red Bank Community Food Pantry is Thursday, June 6th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. You can sign up to volunteer at their sign-up genius at redbankfoodpantry.org. And next we have our report from Vice Mayor Dalton.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, everyone. Happy Pride Month. My family and I also attended the farmers market, saw lots of friendly faces there. It was really awesome being able to purchase local produce, honey, meat, flowers, baked goods. Looking forward to the next one at the end of the month. And I want to say thank you to everyone who attended our first ever community movie night at the Red Bank Community Center. It was fun watching Moana with neighbors and enjoying free popcorn. And my son also got a picture with Moana. So did lots of other children there. It was really cute. The next one, if you missed this one, is July 19th at the Norma Cagle Fields. And we'll be watching Finding Nemo. Thank you to everyone who completed the small area study survey on the former Red Bank Middle School property, which is now closed. The next step will be planning for another community meeting in late July to present the findings of the survey and begin workshopping elements of the larger comprehensive and master plan. So stay tuned for that date. And lastly, Hamilton County Schools community partners are offering free meals to all kids 0 to 18 this summer. No application or registration is needed. Just stop by and enjoy. You can text food or comida to 304-304 to find meal sites. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Next, we have our report from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey.
Good evening. I too went to the first farmers market. I played some pickleball and then walked over in the showers, and it was nice to walk around. And the young lady that played the music was really good.
Mm-hmm.
She sounded like Dolly Parton, I must say. Early voting for Thursday, August 1st election for school board members and others will be Early voting is Friday, July 12th to Saturday, July 27th. Early voting for the November 5th, 24 election will be Wednesday, October 16th to Thursday, October 31st. Cooley's, our long-standing business, is retiring with the liquidation in the next 2 weekends, beginning this Thursday. So many memories by so many loving patrons. Our town will not be the same with the stores closing. Their history will be shared among many platforms, but already there's innumerable accounts from the community within Red Bank and beyond who shopped at the most highly regarded and reputable family-run dress shop. This business was the jewel of Red Bank for men, women, boys, and girls. I don't know how many prom dresses, 3 wedding dresses, and bridesmaids dresses, at least we invested, as well as casual wear from Cooley's. The next food pantry is indeed this Thursday, followed by a send-off for Reverend Ken Sauer, who's been appointed to Oak Ridge United Methodist Church. Thank you, Ken, for having been the initiator for the vital community service. Reverend Liz Hamilton is subsequently appointed to Red Bank United Methodist. Food Truck Friday is this Friday, 5:30 to 7:30, and next Listen and Learn will be June 17th at Sabor from 6 to 7 p.m. Thank you.
And next we have our report from Commissioner Phillips.
The nice thing about going third is they got all the calendar done. So thank you everybody for coming. I have no report.
And next we have our report from Commissioner Wilkinson.
Thank you all. I get to go last, so most of mine get wiped out as well. I do want to thank all the volunteers and the city employees who came to the cemetery cleanup last Saturday. It's looking really good out there at the Red Bank Cemetery. I saw Mr. Gedrin running a chainsaw and pulling poison ivy, so it's brave work. And then congratulations to Clever Ale House on their 2nd year anniversary for being in business in Red Bank. So
All right.
that's what I got.
Awesome.
Want to get on to it?
And next we have our report from our city manager, Mr. Martin Granum.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to begin my report by tossing to Director Tate to share some good news.
Oh.
Good news.
Good news.
$1.50 per hour is all it takes to charge your electric vehicle at the station right out here beside us. next to the road.
Oh.
The station went active around May 22nd. There's a little communication problem between the station and the system with ChargePoint, but once they got the bugs worked out with the installer, the thing went live almost immediately. And so far we've had one car charged for 6.9 hours, stayed plugged up for 13 hours, and it earned the city some revenue to the amount of $10.32, which we will have to reimburse ChargePoint a percentage of that. I think it's 10% that we'll have to reimburse ChargePoint for their services. And so far, it seems flawless, and I'm waiting on Commissioner Phillips to plug it.
So if a person had an electric car, what would they have to do to get over there to plug up on that thing?
That's a good question. You would need to download the ChargePoint app.
Is it on the app and Google Play Store?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Very good question. And once you have set up your account, you can search for it. It will actually pinpoint your location if you have your location services turned on and show the charger in your area. And then you can schedule time. You can see if it's available. You can look up the pricing. It's $1, and we set the pricing at a median range for our area. There are some locations that are higher. There are some that are lower. We set it at $1.50 per hour. There's some of the hotels, long-term stay hotels. I think they have rates around 99 cents. Carta has a $1.20 per hour at a lot of their locations around Chattanooga. And then there are some that are upwards of $3 per hour. So we kind of went mid-range, and we have the ability to raise or lower or adjust the rates as we see fit.
Excellent. Exciting news indeed.
It is. And as soon as I get in touch with some key folks that helped us in this event, we will have some kind of bodacious ceremony here.
Bodacious. Thank you, Director Tate.
Thank you, Greg. And also shout out to Justin Hendrick, our facility manager, and the partnership with Tennessee Tech and Dr. Chen. And behind Dr. Chin is a federal program aimed at providing electric EV charging stations, basically in rural Tennessee. Actually, 5 states in the region are being handled by Tennessee Tech. And we qualified. That specific spot in Red Bank qualified. The further south you go, you lose qualifications. So that was that particular spot did qualify. So thank you, Greg and Justin and Public Works more generally. We are joined this evening by Mr. Juan Aponte. And wait, Juan. Juan is in the Masters in Public Administration program at UTC, go Mocs. And he is participating in the Institute for Public Services Summer Internship Program. And he was placed here at Red Bank by our MTAS representative, Hannah Rogers. Juan hit the ground running, and his first task was to research all of our franchise agreements and see that they're correctly executed. And it turns out several of them are not, so we've got some work to do. And he is also working to ensure our revenues are correct as specified in those franchise agreements. Next up is a focus on our website and some additional local business spotlight postings on our Facebook page as well. He will be making the rounds of all the departments to us both assist and learn as he makes his way around the city of Red Bank. Welcome, Juan. Thank you for joining the city of Red Bank and for your internship with us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grenham. We can move on now to unfinished business. We have first up ordinance number 24-1259, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee, amending the zoning ordinance and maps of this city to rezone property located at 309 Morrison Springs Road from R1A residential to C2 commercial. This is our second and final reading. Director Tate?
Move this back here. Thank you, Mayor. This was presented, as you said, and voted on last commission meeting. There was one change that was made to the ordinance when it was discovered that the parcel was originally listed as R1 when it was R1A. Everything else has stayed the same. It's being requested to be rezoned to C2, and it has gone through the proper processes through our planning commission and through our partners at Southeast Tennessee Development District, and the recommendation was approval of this rezoning. And then pending any other questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Director Tate. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion of the board? Any comments from the residents present? Please give your name and address for the record.
Debbie Phillips, 3910 Robbinsdale Lane. I'm back. I came last time and spoke about the traffic, the problem with the traffic. When we got ready, you got ready to vote, you said the only thing before you was whether to rezone it from R1 to C2. But what is before you is that there is a traffic problem, and it's going to make the traffic worse for everybody in my neighborhood. We're a neighborhood, we're residential. I don't see the other people here, and you don't see the other people here. I've got one on the way. This one forgot, that one. Not everybody is committed to this, I guess, as I am. But the traffic, I know there's going to be more businesses, and we went and looked at a condo this week somewhere else because that's our intentions to move. Because getting in and out is just almost impossible. And I know there's many properties up and down the road for sale, and there's going to be more business, and I get that. But you got to do something with the traffic. You got everybody coming off of Morrison Springs in the afternoon. They're going to Hickson. You know, they're going to Hickson, but they're going to come through Red Bank. And you need businesses, and I get that. You got to have money for all the projects. But you got a residential neighborhood that is as much, you're as much their mayor and their commission as anybody else here or anybody else in Red Bank. We're your constituents. We vote. And so I wish you would consider what to do about the traffic on Morrison Springs. I know you're going to vote for this, But you've got to consider that you've got to do more about the traffic. You just can't let it continue like it is. I mean, I probably could have went and gotten the information on the wrecks that you have on Morrison Church Springs between just 27 and Dayton Boulevard. I'm sure it's many, but you need to consider the traffic on Morrison Springs. And if you're gonna add more businesses, you're gonna have to do something about the traffic.
Conclude your comments.
I have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Phillips. I appreciate you taking the time to come in today. I see we had a few latecomers. Right now, we are on ordinance number 24-1259, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee, amending the zoning ordinance and maps of the city to rezone property located at 309 Morrison Springs Road from R1A residential to C2 commercial. And we're currently on public comments if anyone else would like to comment on this agenda item. And please give your name and address for the record,
David
sir.
McGee, 3906 Robbinsdale Lane. I understand it's a liquor store that's gonna go in there,
Yes, sir.
is that correct? I mean, you're close to 3 churches, my grandkids live on that street, I don't reside there anymore, my grandkids are renting the house from me. I don't agree that liquor stores within walking distance to Hardee's, if they walk down there to get a hamburger, you know, as they get older, what's gonna keep them from going into a liquor store or getting someone to get this liquor for them? So I'm against it. It backs right up to the back of my car. I don't know if you've been out there and looked at it or not, just to see where it's going, but it's right up against mine. They play in the backyard, they're looking at a liquor store. They play in the backyard now, they see Hardee's. You know. I'm against it. You know, I could probably have gone to 3 different churches and got a list of members that would be against it too, and probably should have. But you're asking me, I'm against it, because my grandkids live there. I don't want to see it there. Would you want one in your backyard? Because my land butts right up against what's been sold. My kids are 7, my grandkids are 7 and 9. And there's high school kids walking down that street every day coming home from school. They don't all ride the bus, you know. Yeah, we got a Conoco, I mean, not a Conoco, but a Mapco there now. And they could stop in there and get beer, or somebody can get it for them, but this just puts more stuff in front of them that they don't need. You know. That's my comment. You know, your money, your taxes, I don't think it's worth it for the lives of the young people there that are in schools and churches and, you know. I can just tell you the Red Bank of 10, 20 years ago wouldn't have stood for it in a heartbeat. You know. And I'm still part of that age group. I'm not for it. With grandkids living right there behind it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
McGee.
Mr. McGee, for your comment. I appreciate you coming into our meeting.
Thank you.
Any other comments on ordinance 24-1259?
My name's Margie McGee and his wife, and we own the property at 3906. I guess what I would want to say, I don't know what the ordinance is now about having a liquor store in proximity to a church, but I do wish that this had been made known to the churches in the area. That church is right there within very close proximity to where the liquor store is going to be. And then there are several churches in Red Bank that are close. But my big concern, I agree on the traffic. The traffic is horrendous already to try to get out of little Robbinsdale Lane and the road right behind it, McKay Hill. Traffic is an issue, but my biggest concern is what has happened to Red Bank, because it's not the family place that it used to be. And I think that this is, I'll give you a good example. Somebody said to me just the other day, I bet you're glad you don't live with the riffraff of Red Bank. This is going to give Red Bank an even worse name, in my opinion. So I'm against it as well. And I hate to see Red Bank sell out for tax money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Any other comments on the rezoning of 309 Morrison Springs Road? Okay, if there are no more comments, any more discussion of the board? If there's no more discussion, then Ms. Perry, will you please call the roll, call the vote?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
No,
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on second and final reading. I do want to add that all liquor stores are required to ID, and we have been assured by this applicant who has owned this business in Red Bank for many, many years, that they do ID, and we have been following all of the state mandated requirements. So no 7-year-olds will be buying any alcohol at this business. We can be well assured of that. And we appreciate the time that you've already had your business here in Red Bank, and looking forward to your new location. Thank you very much to the applicants. Next, we have a public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 24-1260, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners in the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025. Second and final reading. Mr. Granum.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Good evening. Let's see. Thank you, Tracy. I'll walk us through just a little orientation of the budget process as we reach this final milestone. The next slide, please, Tracy. The FY25 budget process preparation began with conversations with department directors beginning in February. The budget dates for the FY25 process were established in a memo on the 19th of March. We conducted 4 budget workshops, the 26th of March, the 9th, the 23rd, and the 30th of April. And all those workshops were relatively well attended, particularly with respect to all previous budget cycles where there wasn't anybody there. 4 citizens earned the Budget Academy certificate by participating in all 4 budget workshops, and they received those certificates at our first reading last commission meeting. City charter requires that the city manager present the budget estimate to the commission not later than the 15th of May each year, and that was accomplished this year on the 7th of May. The budget process also sets the property tax rate, and there is no change in the property taxes in this FY25 budget. In Red Bank, any ordinance, including the budget ordinance, requires 2 readings. The first reading of the budget ordinance was on the 21st of May, and the second reading of the budget ordinance is tonight. Enactment occurs upon passing at second reading. It becomes the adopted budget and takes effect 1 July 2024 and continues through 30 June 2025. Next slide, please. So I'll orient you briefly to what you have in tonight's packet. It is the actual ordinance, and it's titled 24-1260. And it is formatted in this particular way, which is not the format we've had to date in the process. We've had spreadsheets and memos from department directors, but at the end of all that process, it boils down to this particular formatting of the budget. It's formatted for the budget ordinance. Each fund is summarized. So there's the budget ordinance itself. It's on page 13 of 36 in the workbook, but it's also labeled page 1 of the budget ordinance itself. The first page has a couple of whereases and a section 1, and that basically establishes the statutory guidance that we're following. Page 2 lists the general fund. Page 3 lists the State Street Aid Fund and the Stormwater Fund. And page 4 lists the Drug Fund and the Impound Fund. Page 5 is a required listing of our debt and debt service. Page 6 lists, amongst other things, our capital projects, and I'll call your eye to the $373,500 that we anticipate spending for the law enforcement vehicles. Towards the bottom of page 6 is a very important section 8, And that is specifically where the property tax is stated at $1.67 per $100 of assessed value. And again, that is no change from the current tax year. And then lastly is the customary signatures for passage of an ordinance. That is the formal document before this evening there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graham.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions for the city manager?
Is there anything been changed since, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask particularly about the forecasted fiscal end of year numbers, if you could cover that, because it is different than the last ordinance that we voted on.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner. I will say that the guts of the ordinance is actually the far right column, the budget FY25. That is really what constitutes the ordinance. The other two lines, the 23 and 24, are really for reference. The 23 is obviously in the books and audited. The 24 line is the current budget year, so it's a work in progress.
Still an estimate.
Still an estimate. And those estimates have changed slightly since the first reading. The
As they will
timeline,
continue to do until August.
yes, ma'am, I was gonna mention that. Typically, the budget we don't finish paying bills until mid to late August. And then the CFO will declare the budget closed. And most of the time, if the work is done prior to 30 June, we attribute it to this budget. But at some point, if we don't get the invoices, then we have to roll it over to the next fiscal year. And that line in the sand is drawn typically in mid to late August. The CFO will declare FY24, the current year closed, and they will produce their final version of the numbers. Then they're passed to the auditor, and the auditor audits our books and provides the audit report. And that really is the final answer in terms of how FY24 is going to wind up. And that is published typically in December and presented to the commission as the audited ending fund balance for FY24.
Can you, Mr. Granum, can you clarify? So this number that's in the current fiscal year, I know that is a changing number.
Yes,
Is this the
FY24.
number that's current as of today? Or is this forecasted based on what you already know is coming out at least through the end of June or
This is our forecast. This is our forecast.
through
for-
the end of June?
Yes, ma'am. through
Okay,
of
the
June.
end of this actual fiscal year.
Correct. That is our forecast, and it is remarkably a good news story at
Yes.
this point. With respect to dollars, contributing to fund balance. If you view it through the lens of getting all the work done we anticipated doing, it isn't quite as good a news story because there's stuff we're trying to do. But it does anticipate a contribution to the fund balance of $741,000, $741,824 in the general fund. And that's on page 2 of the budget ordinance, or page 14 of 36 on that packet.
Thank you. So when we voted last year on the budget for this fiscal year, we voted on it at a 0, nothing in, nothing out. And so now we're looking at adding a significant, amount to the general fund.
Yes, ma'am, and that's pretty consistent
Yes.
in Red Bank's history, is that we budget optimistically, aspirationally, and then really it's difficult to get all that work done. And we typically that's my term, is under execute the budget by upwards of $1 million. And so the $741,000 of under executing the budget, that's another way to say of contributing to fund balance, is in the neighborhood. It's approaching $1 million. It's $750,000. I will say that we are in between CFOs, and it is a moving target because we're in the fiscal year. And so I do anticipate that number to change.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that I don't think it'll get any larger. It'll probably shrink. I'm pretty comfortable that we're going to be somewhere. I think we're going to wind up somewhere north of 0. In other words, we are going to add some to fund balance, but we really won't know for another couple of months.
I will just want to clarify, you say we budget aspirationally, but that maybe means something a little bit different
Yes.
in this terms of the city than a layperson might think.
Right.
We're not being aspirational in that we're over forecasting revenues. We're being aspirational and we hope that this is how much work we can execute and
Yes.
the money that it will cost to do that work.
Yes, ma'am.
But when we fall short of our aspirations, it actually means that we have more money left over because, as you say, the work didn't get done.
Yes, ma'am. And I can just give a couple of concrete examples. We budget for a roofing project and it comes in under budget. We budget always at 100% staffing, and we're almost never 100% staffing. We budget to buy something and it just isn't available. We don't buy it. And sometimes it actually slips to the next
Or
fiscal year.
like our budget amendments that we have today
Yes, ma'am.
for a year or 2 years ago.
So some of that money may actually get spent, but it won't be able to be spent in this year. Yeah. And that's pretty typical. If you look back on Red Bank's history, the vice mayor did a great job last meeting of actually showing that we budget here and we execute here. And typically at the end of each fiscal year, we contribute to the fund balance. And it's worth noting, again, on page 2 of the budget ordinance and page 14 of 36 of the budget packet, towards the bottom of those columns is ending fund balance as of 30 June. It's a very hefty fund balance, and we actually characterize it as a percent of the overall budget. So in the current fiscal year, which is FY24, we're anticipating to have 85.9% of our general fund budget in the fund balance, almost a year's worth of spend in the bank. At the end of FY25, we're anticipating 85.4%, and that's just very healthy. The comptroller would be very, very happy if every local government in Tennessee operated with this level of prudence.
It's a little conservative for the state comptroller, to my understanding, because their guidelines usually recommend a 25 to 50%
Yes, ma'am.
number. And so we're actually coming in a little well above at 85%.
We're in a comfortable place, and what that really means, why I say comfortable, is in terms of municipal revenue, there's peaks and valleys. So property taxes is our #1 source of revenue, and it comes in batches from when people pay their property tax bill in October. We get that in December, and so we get a chunk of money, but we have to pay all our bills as they come in. So we get a revenue peaks, and then it drops off. We don't really get another large chunk along that lines ever. That's the peak, and we have to manage our cash flow. So if we get a big bill for a capital TDOT project that comes in, say in October, when our revenues are not yet in, we have to have the cash flow, we have to have the fund balance to manage the cash flow. And when you have 85% of your annual budget, in reserve, the peaks and valleys don't really get you into trouble. A lot of other cities that don't have that much cash reserve, they have to manage when they pay bills very much carefully. And sometimes they have to get what's called a TAN, a tax anticipation note, where they borrow the money just for a couple of months because they don't have the cash flow to pay a big bill.
And that's why I always pay my taxes on the 28th of February, so that I can help you cash.
He's doing us a favor.
Thank you, Commissioner,
You're
for paying your
welcome.
taxes.
I don't pay mine in October, I wait.
Thank you to everybody for paying their taxes. We are a property tax dependent local government. That is where we get the bulk of our revenues. Also, shopping locally helps. Food City is our largest sales tax contributor, so shop Food City and all the other local businesses in the bank. It matters. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to highlight here. We did have a large packet at the last meeting, and there's a couple of them available back there with the black binder clips. And in those packets is a treasure trove of information on the budget, and I'll just quickly highlight those. There's a guide to the budget document, and that's 4 pages, and that explains all the different funds. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 funds in here, and they're all explained in that guide. There is the spreadsheet, which provides much more granularity than this ordinance formatted budget. There's the memos from the city manager and all 5 departments that really, in language, in text, talks to what they're going to do with this money. It's not spreadsheet numbers, it's actually real dialogue. Then there's some Q&A, and there's supplemental information, and that supplemental information is everybody's wage in the city. We're fully transparent. It's all in one spreadsheet. And also it talks about the one capital loan we're gonna get, which is to buy 6 police cruisers.
I wanted to add one thing is the, amount that we have in fund balance being above recommended. I'm a little bit more comfortable with that specifically because we are on the precipice of a capital improvements plan.
Yes.
And that could really give us an opportunity to guide where we invest that overage, with more a data-driven approach in coming years.
And specific to those capital projects, it'll allow us to do some of the preparatory work that would precede borrowing. For example, we can do concept development with consultants. We can hire architect and engineering firms and get to a solid budget numbers by using our fund balance and really tee up a debt ask. Because before you borrow the money, you really have to know to the penny what you need. And so having this fund balance really allows us to tee up those capital projects with a lot of certainty about what it's going to cost and the scope and the timeline. Every capital project is 3 components: scope, schedule, and cost. Well, with that fund balance, we can nail those 3 components down in advance and set the commission up for a very strong position of green lighting or tailoring the scope of the project from a very informed position. The other thing I will highlight while we're talking about fund balance is the healthy fund balance are really across all the funds. The State Street Aid fund balance on page 3 and the stormwater fund, those are all in positive. And the drug fund and the impound fund, really all you want to do there is not budget into the negative, and they're all positive. So it's a good news story in terms of fund balance across all funds.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, in that case, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Mr. Graham, would you like to go over the ground rules for the public hearing?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for public comments. Please observe these rules for comments. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments as time expires. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not necessarily to respond or engage in back and forth. So please do not expect to reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Anyone who would like to speak on this budget? All right, if there are
So much different than last year.
if there are no
We
public
said
comments,
keywords this year.
I will
Yeah.
close the public hearing, and we can move on to deliberation of the board. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Phillips. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion of the board? Okay, we just had our public hearing, so if there are no more comments, Ms. Perry, will you call the vote for us?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
No.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on second and final reading. Moving on to new business, we have agenda item number 24-877, report on debt obligation. And I'll turn that over to our city recorder, Ms. Perry. It's okay.
As we commission approved the loan for $655,000 in the last meeting, this is just our obligation, or the state obliges us to report this to you once we have done everything, that we have submitted this report to the Division of Local Government Finance of the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury and understand our legal responsibilities to pay it back.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Perry? All right, no action needed on that agenda item. Moving on to ordinance number 24-1261, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee to amend the fiscal year 2024 operating budgets beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, in order to appropriate unbudgeted expenditures and grant funding in the amount of $1,830,187. First reading. Ms. Perry.
This is one that I told you we had to amend. There's different, the totals.
Oh, the total's different. I'm sorry.
1,880,187.
You did tell me that.
The general fund revenues are just the loans approved and fund balance, and it's gonna cover some vehicles that were ordered in previous years that didn't come until this year. State Street A will have some TDOT projects that we always have to roll over and put that into the next year. And then solid waste is where the general fund is being reimbursed for oil, vehicle parts, and possibly the brush truck if it comes in before the end of the year.
Do I need to read the caption of the ordinance again, Mr. Stolz, with the correct number?
Yes, if you would, please.
Could you say that number again, Ms. Perry?
1,888,187.
187. Okay, so this is ordinance 24-1261, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee to amend the fiscal year 2024 operating budgets beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024 in order to appropriate unbudgeted expenditures and grant funding in the amount of $1,888,187. First reading. Any questions for Ms. Perry? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion? Any comments from the residents present? If there are no more comments, Ms. Perry, will you call the vote?
Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dalton.
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson, sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries on first reading. Next, we have ordinance number 24-1262, an ordinance of the city of Red Bank, Tennessee, repealing Title IX, Chapter 7 of the Red Bank City Code, i.e. the Red Bank Wrecker Service Ordinance, and substituting in its place instead a new modernized and up-to-date ordinance to regulate and provide a framework and establish a set of regulations for the operation of wreckers and wrecker services within the city of Red Bank, Tennessee. First reading. Chief Seymour. Bless you.
No, thank you. There's two more.
That's a 3.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was gonna start off by saying we'll go through a PowerPoint, but we covered it through our workshop pretty extensively on what this covers. So obviously we have some things in our current ordinance that need to be updated. So this proposed ordinance reflects that, as well as allowances to actually have a fee schedule now, which will be outside of the ordinance that will be updated by resolution from time to time, which will be part of the after the second reading on this. A lot of the changes in here, which we discussed, the primary big change of this ordinance has to do with not requiring record companies to have properly operate a business within, they can be within a 4-mile radius, but still having to comply with an application process and a permitting fee, and those types of things. So that's really what it covers. That's the main change, along with some of the other details. So I don't know if you have any more questions or not on that. But.
Any more questions for the chief? We may have exhausted them in the work session.
I guess just for
No.
clarification. There. What Mr. Burke mentioned about the primary and secondary list. So since we only have 4 right now, is everybody on the primary list right now? Okay. So is there like a limit to the number of folks on that list? So they're primary because they go through all the inspection and pay the licensing fee and meet all the other requirements of the ordinance. The secondary list is just for like backup.
Correct.
Okay.
And the current
Would be
ordinance-
if we had a secondary list right now.
Right, the qualification on the second, for the secondary list would be their business would have to be within 7 miles
Okay.
of Red Bank, and I think that's the way the ordinance reads. And they would also have to pay for a permit fee to be able to do this. But currently, as long as I've been chief, we have not had anybody on a secondary list as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right,
Excuse
Oh,
me.
please.
You did mention earlier if it were narrowed to 3 and grandfather the said company that had the second site. Is that doable?
That might be a question for Mr. Stolz.
Well, I would defer to Mr. Stoltz, but I would, say that would be your prerogative since it goes before you for your approval. You're the ones that have to, vote on this ordinance, and you can make motions to, amend any part of the ordinance. But
Yeah, the criteria can be revised, in the way that Commissioner had asked.
Well, because I'd like to know how many, is there 13 or 30? How many is going to be on this list if we go 3 miles versus 4 miles versus what we got now? Because, I don't know how far 4 miles is, is that all of Hickson and all of Signal Mountain? I don't know if there's a record company on Signal Mountain, so I don't know how many that is, but I too would like to, I'd like to kind of
Explore.
have an idea about it.
Well, the 4 miles gets right close up to the Saudi Daisy city limits, but it doesn't include Saudi Daisy city limits. So you kind of take a radius there of it coming into part of Hickson area as well. The 4 mile radius would extend a little bit over the river, kind of into downtown. I think the 4 miles is short of the majority of, East Ridge and anything like that. Would there be maybe some, couple more that, record companies that would be within that 4 miles? Yes. I doubt very seriously that it would include 13 more. Whatnot. But I could see where there being a couple, but the exact number, I don't know.
Vice Mayor.
I just got on my phone and looked up record service near me, and there's only 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, Kane's Record Services in Hill City.
That's Mr. Kane.
And then there's, this is around us where we are right now. The other closest one is in Rossville, past East Ridge, and then over Biley Highway, which it wouldn't stretch over there. So
well, and there's some that are closer than that may not be showing up on that specific.
R&D's over here too. I know he hit.
Ooh, say that again.
R&D. Are they on there?
I'm not seeing that one listed.
Any other questions for Chief?
No, I wouldn't mind making a motion to make it 3 miles and grandfather in the,
Mr. Stolz, do we have the language to make that amendment at this time, or would we need to table it?
It would need to, we
They have
need
to
to
be
study it
rewritten.
out and be very careful about the way that was done.
Right, we wouldn't be able to amend it on the spot, on the fly. We'd have to come back with a rewritten ordinance.
Would be the better way to do it, is to have the actual language. You could do when motion to approve to amend those provisions, and then possibly it could be gotten ready for the
Second and
next
final
meeting.
reading.
Next meeting.
Well, and I'm not going to be, I would not be able to be here for the second commission meeting in June. And then we normally don't meet the one in, because normally it would have been scheduled for the second one in June. I actually couldn't be here. So depending on what y'all want to do, we could possibly then schedule for our second commission meeting in July.
Is there
If that's what y'all wanted to do.
is there any urgency one way or the other?
No, I mean,
I think you'd like to be done with it if I.
well, being done, and a big part of it is updating the fees as soon as we can. But like this has been going on for a long time. So
could they be voted on separately? I mean,
that would
The
be
fee
at the
schedule.
same day?
Well, the fee schedule is a separate item and it's in a resolution. Right? So we'd approve the ordinance that allows us
Then
you to
set the
create
fees.
a resolution that we can set these fees.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
That's why we have to pass the ordinance first, and then we can have the resolution to adopt the way we're doing the fees.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I think your strategy was to actually have the resolution accompany the second reading. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so we would be in a position to have both done at the same time.
And those are, yeah, I mean, they're in that form. I mean,
Yeah.
you're ready to go for that agenda.
Well, it sounds like Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey, you'd like to make a motion to amend. Mr. Stoll, is that correct? Mr. Stolz, would you be able to provide her with the language to make such a motion?
It would be a motion to amend the primary motion to approve the,
Radius, knowledge.
to approve the ordinance as written with she was asking me, I thought, for the language about how to make the
Oh, yeah, we
ordinance.
haven't had a primary motion yet. We've just been discussing. We need to make a primary motion first.
That would be the better way to do that.
Okay, do I have a
If we're gonna try to move forward on it tonight rather than table.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Approve the amendment.
Do I have a motion to approve the ordinance as written? This would allow us to, you can't make an amendment until the
It's
initial motion has been made.
I'll move.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Dalton. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second for Commissioner Wilkinson. All right,
Now, Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey can make a motion to amend
the primary motion.
motion to revise the language in the ordinance as written in order to lessen the distance from 4 miles to 3 miles and to grandfather in all existing currently permitted rotation records that are outside the 3 mile radius. Just say what that's.
Do you make a motion to that effect?
Yes.
You have to say it.
I'll make a motion that.
You can say, you can make a motion to that
What he
effect.
just said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
And if I may, could, because for my thing, I'd like to hear from these guys before we start motioning.
We have to motion before we can know what we're voting on, since there's an amendment going on.
All right. Okay.
We will have an opportunity for comment.
I'll second.
We have a second from Vice Mayor Dalton. Okay, so we have to vote on the amended motion. If that amendment fails, we will return to the primary motion. If it passes, then that is the action. So any further discussion of the board?
Personally, I'd like to hear what they got to say.
Absolutely.
You know, and then I might have some more questions.
Right.
Okay, or comments, you know.
Just following the procedure.
Yeah,
I don't have
You're
any
talking about Mr.
discussion at this point in time.
Burke or Chief Seymour?
Mr.
Burke.
Mr. Burke and, I don't know who you are, sir.
Bullard,
Okay.
Island Raised Towing.
Okay.
So, if there's no more discussion of the board, do we have any comments from the residents present regarding this ordinance? And please come to if you'd like to, please come to the podium and give your name and address for the record.
My name is Chris Bullard. We own Raised Towing at 3003 Dayton Boulevard. We've not been on the rotation here in Red Bank since I've owned the company. But something we would like to look into getting into. And as I understand it now, it's pretty flooded with people that don't operate a business inside the city of Red Bank. So stretching it even further outside of Red Bank is going to bring a lot more people into that don't actually run and operate a business inside the city. So it would be something that I guess I would be against if I had a vote in it. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bullard.
Thank you.
And the mileage don't matter.
Any other comments about the tower record ordinance?
Yeah, Kenny Burke, Tank Rec Service. Well, right now, the ordinance is, you have to have a stepping place in Red Bank for the primary rotation business, a secondary, so we have 4 of us on it. The only problem is, the ordinance don't say we need to store the cars in Red Bank. I can do that, the other guy's supposed to be able to do it. Well, my thing is, it needs to be just changed, all cars be stored in Red Bank, told by the Red Bank Police Department, and that would solve this issue. Because all the other guys, they say they have established place in Red Bank for several years, and Red Bank's approved it. So now why are we wanting to move this farther out, you know? And as far as calls, we talked about the other day, I mean, the number of calls, it goes crazy. I got a call today from Red Bank on a theft report, guy stole something anyway. The other call was May the 26th, so that's about probably 9 days without a call. This time, it shortens up, it can be long, you know. So to have any more than what we got now, it's not gonna be really profitable for anybody. That's the reason these other guys want to move back to the other place, you know, where they can operate without expense. But I own a piece of property. You know, that's not all I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Any other comments? Okay. If there are no more comments, then the next step is to vote on the amended motion made by Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. And this is a roll call vote. Ms. Perry, will you call the roll for us?
Mayor Bear.
No.
Vice Mayor Dalton.
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Farley.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
All right, amended motion passes. So, Mr. Stolz, will you be able to prepare the amendment for the second and final reading?
I think the chief and I, together with mostly the chief doing it, will be ready.
Chief, will you be able to bring the
He has
amended?
the template and that's the way we work through the whole process. It's been the primary author.
Okay,
I believe we can do it, although I would, recommend, since I won't be able to be here, if we did this at the second meeting in June, that way then, schedule it for another next regular commission.
are we able to, Ms. Perry, is that all right if we push it?
You're saying to move it to the July meeting?
Yes.
That's okay, for us to have a meeting intervening, that we have no action on this item?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the question.
Is that
I don't-
established today that that's what we're doing?
Okay,
I don't mind it, being at the second meeting this month. I just won't be here. If there's any questions and the fee schedule and all that, when he looked at these dates, I didn't know.
I think it'd be better to do everything when he can be here.
okay. I think that sounds just fine with me, if it's fine with everybody else here.
So July 16th?
Yeah, second, this
Third
third
Tuesday.
Tuesday in July will be
Yes.
the next action on this item, or the second and final reading with this and the resolution for the fee structure. Okay,
For the fee structure.
yep. All right, so that is our last ordinance for today. So we have reached the time for citizen comments for Red Bank citizens for items not on tonight's agenda. Mr. Granum?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate the timer visible on the dais. Please respect her direction and include any comments as time expires. Comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to respond or engage in back and forth. So please do not expect a reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium to comment. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Any comments for anything not on tonight's agenda? Okay. If there are no more comments, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Phillips. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Run this.